Welcome to The Shadow Side with Safriana, the podcast where we illuminate what others too often keep hidden in the dark. I'm your host, Safriana Luna, and I believe that true growth and healing happen when we're brave enough to explore the shadows. As you listen, may you find greater understanding and awareness around your personal stories and collective trends. Take care of yourself, and let's dive in. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of The Shadow Side with Safriana. I am Safriana, and I'm so delighted to be joined by your soul connection coach, Claudia-Sam, today. We are going to dive in and have a beautiful conversation on the disempowered mind and how we can turn that around. So thank you so much, Claudia-Sam, for being here.
Yay!
So excited.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, if you'd be so kind as to introduce yourself to our audience.
Of course. Okay, so as a human, something that might be funny, a few things. I've once body surfed at a Bon Jovi concert. I know the Friends series by heart. Who doesn't? And you can find me on my paddleboard. Maybe not eating avocados on the paddleboard, but I love avocados. And this new fruit that I've discovered here in New Zealand, I live in New Zealand, is the red kiwi fruit. I am obsessed with the red kiwi fruit. I didn't even know it was a thing. So
Me either.
Yeah, right? And professionally, as your soul connection coach, I help women who are driven dreamers, but who are trying to figure out what's next for them, what their next step is. So I help them to tune into their intuition so that they can make empowered, aligned decisions without guilt. I do that using my Tune In method. And I'm also the host of the Be Happy Now show podcast.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. So many. First, I just want to laugh at the fact that your two favorite foods right now would literally kill me. I am allergic to both avocados and kiwis, so please eat all of them for me because I didn't used to be allergic to them and I very much miss them. So please enjoy on behalf of the people who are allergic.
Oh gosh, I will. Oh, that's
please, yes.
unfortunate.
But oh my gosh, you do such beautiful work in the world. And again, I'm so glad you're here to share your wisdom today. And just in case you don't know me, I'm Safriana Luna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I'm a licensed trauma therapist turned transformational mentor, author, and speaker. And I'm just a very all-around creative person who can't stop generating content.
Yes, I'm sitting by your book right here. Bumblebees and White Balloons is right here on my desk, which has inspired me because I'd never read a book in 2.5 days, and yet your book came along.
That is a deep honor.
Seriously, I got so drawn into the characters, and I see a movie. I told you that.
Well, let's keep the vision going for that because, I want to empower that future. So speaking of that, we are talking today about the disempowered mind. And before we really dive in, I just want to say right here, right now, Claudia-Sam, you're in New Zealand, thank goodness, away from the chaos that is happening where I am, because there's a lot of turmoil in the United States right now. And there's a lot of people that are feeling really scared and very disempowered in the situation. So I know a lot of my audience is really going to resonate with how do we feel empowered again when all of our thoughts are in fear? So I just want to kind of put that out there that we are navigating really tender times. And it's so important to see the good in the world too. So let's dive in with that. What happens when people avoid seeing the good in the world?
Yeah, thank you. I acknowledge that the chaos is there and the possibility for calmness is there too. Mm-hmm. What I tend to see and say is that we are not just human. We are not just this human body who can make up problems and fix problems. We are, I believe, human and divine both at the same time. And we might get into this topic where it's not about bypassing the human nature that has a lot of emotions and the capacity to steer away from trouble, away from chaos, away from stress, and at the same time get so drawn in by it. It blows my mind how the expression no pun intended, that we get entertained by series about murder, about rape, about stressing out our system to the maximum. And yet we watch them and rewatch them and I say I can't sleep if I watch these shows that
Mhm.
stress me out to the max. And there are less popular entertainment series about peace and calmness because it feels not stimulating enough. And so when chaos is there, I think there's something part of the left brain near the amygdala, which is where the most animals who have a spine have that left brain kind of save yourself kind of, well, aspect of itself. And that is also the part of the human that, now I'm not a neuroscientist, so I might dumb this down way like a lot. Okay. This
I'm with you.
Okay. This part of the brain actually is also wanting to control the situation. So if there is chaos and we would want to run away from it, we might look at chaos and see how we can prevent it for ourselves, therefore we would control it, instead of accessing the other part of the brain, the right side of the brain that's connected with the left side of the body, that could then have you be in curiosity, that could help you look out for solutions, not from the problem side, not from the chaotic stressful mind. And so what I like to say to my clients and to myself is, don't play the connect the dots game with everything going on in your life outside of you and inside of your own circumstances and body and mind. It's not because there is something happening in politics and in your finances and on your deck and on your in your whole physiological health. We don't have to connect all of them. They don't have to mean anything about each other or one another. They can be seen as separate, distinct situations. And the calmer we are, the closer to curiosity we are, instead of contributing to the problem, I think the better we will find that we can respond with empowerment and contributing with an actual contribution. Like, for example, when I hear people talking about politics just because they're reiterating what they hear on the news, for example, my response is, okay, and how can you contribute to it being differently?
Mhm.
Can we have conversations about mindful contribution instead of being angry at someone else and detaching our sense of responsibility to how other people respond in the world? So I
Mhm.
may have deviated from what the answer you were looking for, but that's what I got for now.
No, this really, I want to go back to two main threads here. One is that responsibility piece that you just said. That is huge because that's so much of what I share with people is like, if you spin yourself up and you are so stressed about the thing that you are depleted, you're like face down, you have no life to give because you're so overwhelmed by everything, you can't contribute to the solution. So that being able to take responsibility for our piece is so important, and it moves the needle forward. And the other part that I want to go back to is you said, this chaos, this overstimulation, like we are constantly plugged into so many different things. And that just makes us connect all of the dots everywhere that you were talking about, like each little area of our life, trying to connect it all because we're constantly overstimulated and we're juggling all of these things. So I think that that's just a really important note to think about, like how overstimulated we are and how that ends up contributing to the stress, and then to the over identifying with like everything because we're so hooked
Mm.
in. Ugh.
Oh, and also, I personally have a recent experience I'm happy to share, that there was this. So I decide to eat vegan. So I decided to not eat any animal products because the pain that the animals go through actually, it pains me.
Mhm.
And the other day I was watching a show that has ads in between, and the ad was about helping a certain foundation to bring awareness to people about the human animal relationship and how some humans will take their quote unquote empowered, controlling nature to do what they want with animals. And the visuals that they showed, I'm just talking about it and I have to make sure that I'm as grounded because it actually invades my sense of calmness and therefore takes me into that sense of chaos. And what
Mhm.
happened in that moment is that I noticed I was getting all riled up, angry, shaky, hot, sweaty. It was attacking that sense of curiosity. I was unable to respond from that right brain, calm, rejuvenation, grounded, higher perspective. I was unable to get there. And what I wanted to do was take action, tell
Mhm.
everybody off, like not in a nice way. No, no, there was no compassion for other people in that moment. It was like anger, all to say that it wasn't helpful. And in
Mm.
that essence of me taking on the chaos and letting it take over my whole body, it let no room for any creativity and any solution oriented actions. Therefore, in that state, I did take one action where I shared the link and then I overthought and analyzed my response and what energy I was sending that link from for hours. And so, what that told me is that I need to calm myself down first
Mhm.
and then take action to be able to access curiosity. So, in any situation where there is chaos, if we merge with it, well, there is no space for
Mhm.
any constructive, positive outlook. And therefore, we are not, I believe, helping enhance the vibration and frequency of the planet by acting from that place where there is no space.
Yes. I love how you've languaged around this acting from it. It is not that we're not allowed to feel the feelings or acknowledge the part of us that's having that anger response or whatever it is. It's not allowing that to then run the show because that also tends to burn us out and often put us in danger
Hmm.
or it could because it's coming from that fight flight freeze place, right? And that mobilization is such an important like biological human imperative when we are in danger, but again, going back to that overstimulation, it's like it's everywhere all the time. So I'd like to ask the question, when we are like over focused on everything that's wrong in the world, because we can look around and see all kinds of suffering. But what's
Yeah.
the impact? What happens when we stop acknowledging what's working and what's good in our life?
Hmm. We forget it exists. We forget that we just think, I believe, we think that there is no other way. And therefore, it feels to me like a force that is not a power from love and from the divine, instead, a force from the fear and the chaos that is like a suction down towards the lower frequencies, towards fear, towards doubt, towards guilt, towards victimization.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it's a little bit like shutting all of the blinds in a room and someone coming in and saying, "No, but there is light." No, there's no light. There's no light. It's dark in here. You can decide to stay here and not peek outside, not open one blind. Everyone is at choice. I think that therefore, when we choose to not see what's working, we are, the image is digging our own grave.
Mm. Yeah.
Not saying it's easy when you're feeling depressed and like there is no good. It's not about being, yeah, rosy and unicorn hat and thinking that the depression isn't real. It's just not who we are in that moment. And sometimes I like to even acknowledge, let's say you're feeling, I'm going to take me for example, when I'm feeling like I just don't want to contribute. I don't want to be nice. I don't want to be overly connecting. And I also don't want to find a solution. I'm aware of it. And with the awareness, I can decide to sulk in it. I love eating popcorn. So I will eat a big bowl of popcorn and watch Friends. Okay. And then I will acknowledge that I'm deciding to ignore, deciding not to work on the emotional state that I'm at for a limited, focused period.
Mhm.
And then I move on. Then I have the capacity to sit with the emotions, to go outside, to do something that will then, instead of suck me down, that will uplift me one little inch at a time of opening the curtain, because I've
Mhm.
allowed the shadow, the moment of what's not working to be there.
Yes. There's an analogy I use of ramps, right? Like everything
Okay.
in life, we're building a ramp. We always
Okay.
start at zero. We have to build, right? Like if you're starting a business, you're starting at zero, you build your way up. If you're starting a fitness routine, you start at zero, you build your way up. You could get to 50% mastery or 50% to your goal. And then this depression hits, right? This, oh my gosh, I'm overstimulated. I'm overwhelmed. I'm whatever. I'm in my shame spiral, my doubt, my fear. And if you
Mm.
try to force yourself to keep going and building, what you'll actually do is slide back down that ramp so hard to the bottom and often lose or sabotage your progress. Versus if you go, okay, no movement, sitting down, and we sit down where we're at and we give ourselves that breathing room, then
Mm.
we have the opportunity to stand back up and keep building the ramp again once we're ready. But yeah, this like
Yes.
pause.
And that can be acknowledged as progress as well. The fact of acknowledging where we're at. If yesterday you weren't acknowledging where you're at, just the
Mhm.
fact that you are now acknowledging is progress.
Yeah.
It's just not written in big bold on a magazine where everybody can see and witness you. But can it be enough for yourself to witness yourself in what is working at that small increment of progress?
Right. Yeah. Beautiful. So we've talked about this a little bit, but I want to come back to the bypassing.
Okay.
And what is the difference? Because, I interface in a lot of very woo communities, new age communities, spiritual communities, and there's a concept that I see a lot of bypassing. People will just say, just wish it away, pray it away, don't focus on it, and it'll all be better. And that's bypassing essentially. Is I'm going to, not be in this lower vibe. I'm gonna go right back to a high vibe. I'm gonna do what we were just talking about and kind of try and force myself to there. So, what is the difference between doing that and forcing it and actually being empowered with it?
Mm. Thank you. I feel like it comes back to what we were saying responsibility wise. If we can be at choice with where we put our energy, I believe we remain in our empowered self. If we decide to bypass and say, wish it away, for example, or pray it away, in a way like it's not there, I want to ignore that it's there kind of place, I believe that that can actually be empowering if you choose to actively pray, send energy, focus on the vision of how better it can be, or how good it can be, or how healthy the person can be. There's a distinction to be made between saying it and actually doing it. So I think the line is very thin
Mhm.
because there is a commitment to actually doing the distance energy healing or envisioning someone who's unhealthy to be healthy versus saying, oh, just pray it away like they are ignoring it. The thing is, from the outside, I don't think it's helpful to anyone to believe that that person is therefore doing nothing and just bypassing. We can let them have their own experience. I think for me, if someone says send prayers, I'm actually going to tune in and say, do I have capacity to send prayers right now? Am
Mhm.
I in the chaos or the calm to be able to send prayers? Can I commit to this right now? Versus just sending prayers in a Facebook commenting feed to say, oh, see, I contributed. I'm
Mhm.
sending prayers just by these words. that might be for the ego self to be acknowledged. And it might be that the person actually did send prayers. We don't know. I guess for me, that's where I see the bypassing can occur. Can we actually pray? Can we actually envision? Can we actually embody the calmness? Because I don't believe that staying in chaos either for every day without thinking that there is another way is necessarily beneficial. In the sense that if, for me, if I feel dull, like I'm at a low moment or like things are not working out, to wish it away would be like spending the whole day eating popcorn and watching a show, but feeling misaligned, feeling like I'm wasting my time, feeling guilty, feeling like this isn't productive, feeling not loving towards myself is a little bit another form of bypassing, because I'm not even acknowledging that I'm actively choosing to not feel. I'm not even being aware of that, and instead I'm piling on a beautiful sandwich of self-hate.
I love this awareness piece. It all comes down to intention and awareness. That am I doing the prayer to deliberately connect to my higher power, my higher self, whatever it might be, and be in this moment and acknowledge what's not working and envision the better? Or is it a pushing away, a turning away from it? And if we have intention and awareness around deliberately pushing it away for a little while to bring it back in, it's very different than just pushing it away, pushing it away, pushing it away. So everything really comes down to this intention and awareness piece. That is really beautiful and so important. That's where the empowerment comes in.
I think so too. And there might be a time when, I don't know if you've ever heard this saying, something like, God puts in your way what you can handle, or something like that. Like, he won't put something in your way that you can't handle, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
To a degree, I think that there are layers of healing or layers of getting to know ourselves that we are at some point ready to face, and at other points not ready to face. And so it's almost like if something is there to be healed, to be faced, to be acknowledged, and we're just quote unquote ignoring it unconsciously because we don't have all the tools and the presence and the spiritual maturity to handle it and with love, then perhaps, I don't know that I would call that bypassing, because it's not where there's no awareness that
There's
we're
no
not ready
awareness.
for it. Does that make
Yeah. Yeah. No,
sense?
this is
Yeah.
great nuance, right? Like the
Hmm.
nuance in the spectrum of bypassing. Because I've literally seen like gurus who have all the tools say things like just shape shift your problems away. And I'm like, that's an interesting practice. Okay. We could maybe, if there was a lot more to it than that, than just because it was very taught, it was taught in a very like shoo kind of way. And I was very confused by that. But when we
Mhm.
don't have the conscious awareness, we're unconsciously incompetent with the thing. So that's not really like, we need to gain more knowledge and tools in order to be able to confront that. But then when we do have the awareness and the tools and we're still making the choice to turn away, turn away, turn away, then we're getting more into that like true realm of potentially bypassing and
Yes, and that's the
ignoring.
disempowered, I believe, place. And I think this conversation is great, because let's say we take someone who has a sense of self that isn't present. I think I'm going off track.
I think this is we can go on track. This is wherever it needs to go.
Okay. What the real thing that's coming through is that, so A Course in Miracles says that God is love, therefore so am I. If love is what I am, if love is who I am, then any sensation of disempowerment or any lack of awareness or anxiety or depression is a disconnect from love. So, could bypassing be a disconnect from the truth of love and still be an ego, small self, human self only action when it's meant to be a spiritual action. It's
Mm,
interesting. I think that's how sneaky it is. So, A Course in Miracles also says that the mind, the ego mind, turned on itself. So, because we can ask, why does the ego exist if God is love and if love created us as itself? Then why does the ego exist? Because the mind is so powerful that it turns against itself. So by turning against itself, it's creating all these areas of unloving, of
mm,
shame, of disempowerment, of chaos, of needing to fix, of needing to win, of needing to prove, of needing to be better than and compare. And so, as soon as we enter that ego, it's so subtle because it turned on itself. Therefore, it can be really difficult to recognize what is an ego disempowered action and what is a loving, connected, anchored in the truth of who we are action.
mm. Yes. Well, this gets into the body, right? We live in we
Yes,
for
we
lack
have
of
a
a better
body.
term, we live in this meat suit that is our
Yep.
mech suit that our soul is driving around right now. And we are that human divine intersection that you've talked about. And we are love. But then we've separated out who we are here on earth. And at least in a lot of Western cultures, we have really over identified with the mind and therefore the ego because it's just one part of how we filter things in, just one part, but we over identify with the story. And that's kind of what I wanted to ask next is like when we get lost in the sauce, when we're lost in the stories, what does
Yeah.
that do to our ability to be present?
What's the present moment? That's what it does. What's what do you mean? What's the present moment? Or, oh, I go there sometimes. Perhaps the past me, but present moment is boring. What do I do in the present moment? There's no momentum. Present moment sucks. It's for the whatever judgment of calm, peaceful people is, like uh, yeah, the present moment I think is something we all get to see and all don't want to see because we're either projecting what we want other than what is really happening and we don't want to see what's really happening because we're judging it and wanting something else than what's there. And I believe that that is one of the most beautiful gifts of shadow work and soul connection because we get to face what is here right now, be with it. Even in Byron Katie has a book called Loving What Is. And only, I believe, when we are willing to be wrong, when we are willing to see that we are not all the shit. Like, is that the expression? Like that it's not just about us,
That we're not the shit. Yeah.
that we're not, that's it. Then will we start to see what is and be at peace with it. Otherwise, we want to debate what is. We want to debate that it's the reality, quote unquote, of what's
Mm,
our life in this present moment. We want it to be something else. So we don't want to acknowledge that it is what it is because it would mean that we're a failure or not good enough or not progress enough or whatever the mind creates it to be. So I guess it distorts the present moment.
yeah. The stories, they drag us away from the ability to be present because a story is, for the most part, existing in the past or the future. I mean, we could tell a story about the present, but if we were actually doing that, it would be I'm on a call with Claudia-Sam, your soul connection coach, and I have books in front of me. And like we'd be observing instead of telling stories. So it
Yes.
really takes getting wrapped up in something that happened in the past or some future outcome is really where that ego trips up. And then we get into this really tangly state. So I'm curious if you have any tools that you'd be open to sharing, just very high level, like when people are stuck in this disempowered state, they're just like not able to acknowledge what's working for them. They're just playing the worst case scenarios in their head. What can they do to begin to shift?
Thank you. There are so many different things. And to me, the most simple thing that you can take anywhere is your breath, and to consciously breathe deep in the belly. So we can do it together. This
Yeah.
is something I like to do myself, which is a 3-part breath. So the first breath, you can imagine that you're inflating a big balloon at the belly. And then the second breath, you feel it like between the belly button and the heart, a medium balloon size that you're inflating. So it lifts the chest. And then the third balloon is smaller and it makes space here in the channel between the head and the heart and the throat. And so there's a 3-part breath where it brings in the visualization of space. And so you can imagine that it's actually a balloon that inflates and deflates, but it doesn't deflate to the point of emptying you out. It just has this movement of expansion and contraction, just like your diaphragm has. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so exhale everything through the nose. Inhale, inflate the belly. And when you exhale, feel that big balloon at the belly gently deflate. Now inhale, you're going to inhale the big balloon and then followed by that medium balloon. Feel it at the back as well. And exhale, deflating the medium balloon and then the big balloon. And then inhale, big balloon. So belly, lower back, medium balloon to the middle back, and then to the throat and upper back. Small balloon, then deflate that small balloon, medium balloon, and big balloon. And gently open your eyes. Yeah. That
I,
can, yeah, go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I loved the 3-part of that because it gave an anchor to really
Mm,
drop into the body and think, but have to go into the body and therefore kind of get out of just swirling.
yeah. Thank you. And this is something you could take anywhere, right? Through traffic, through the line at the grocery store, through a screaming infant, through anything that's there, because your breath is your anchor. And that's what you have in the present moment. And I think that takes you into your most empowered self because you're acknowledging what is, and you can consciously slow down the breath as well. My Guruji in Nepal, my Guruji means teacher, he would say that his teachers would say that we have a certain amount of breath outlined or given to us at birth, and that the slower the breath, the longer our life.
Mm-hmm.
That's not scientifically backed. Do not think that this is coming from disciples and teachers of the yogic tradition in Nepal. Yeah.
Yes, there's so much beautiful wisdom in breath work, though. And I've heard
Mm,
that before. And I mean, I'd believe it because when we breathe consciously, the whole body slows down. We can
yeah.
lower our heart rate. We can regulate, right? And that's why breath work is one of the most powerful tools if you are activated, if you can catch your breath, if you can get into some conscious breathing, it can bring your nervous system back down. So that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. I think this is great with even our conversation today because before taking an empowered action and when you're in a chaos state, using the breath, and it might take you more than 3 breaths, and that's okay to shift
Yeah.
into a calm, empowered state. Thanks for
Yeah.
asking.
Absolutely. And then the cool thing is you build that ramp with your breath work, and eventually it does take 3 breaths because you have got the tool so integrated. It's so exciting what we can do. So, speaking of taking empowered action, Claudia-Sam, would you be willing to share a little bit about your coaching and how you have an application process that when people sign up to work with you, they're actually applying and they're kind of figuring out their own kind of place of where they are right now as they're doing that. So would you be willing to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you so much. So on my website, claudiasamsoulcoaching.com, if you go to the work with me section, you can apply for coaching. And the reason I have an application form is that there is a series of questions that I would ask you face to face that you can actually take time to connect with yourself, arrive in the present of what's actually going on for you. So whether we end up working together or not, this acts as an intuition audit, helping you to acknowledge where you're at, what challenges you might be facing, what other outcomes of life might you want to experience, what have you tried before, what has worked, what has not worked. And so this can be a great place for you to just kind of take an energy pulse check about where you're at in your life in general. And even if you've never worked with a coach before, this might be a great introduction to the kinds of questions that you might receive from a coach, and you can play. Get curious. This brings you into your right brain of curiosity, playfulness, and honoring the truth of who you are, both human with all the emotions and divine love.
Beautiful. I love that you have that process, because I think people need to do some self-selection process and really figure out where they are before they make big decisions. And there's so many people that don't ask meaningful questions and really assess that deeper. Like, is someone making this choice from an empowered place or a disempowered place? Super important. So if you're listening to this, the link will be in the show notes. Otherwise, it is here live. So thank you so much for sharing about that. And, I encourage you definitely to connect in Claudia-Sam's world and to go check out the Be Happy Now podcast and just interface wherever you feel like, because you do beautiful work in the world. So again, thank you so much. As we wind down to the end of our time today, I just want to circle back around. Is there anything else that you'd like to share today that's either on your heart or just a piece of wisdom that someone out there needs to hear?
You have all the answers inside of you. You have it in you. That's it.
Yeah. Perfection. Absolutely what we need to hear, because so many people are putting that outside of themselves, but we do have these answers within us. We have this capacity for so much joy and light and play and curiosity and all of the wonderful empowered things we've talked about today. And it is okay for you to feel your feelings. Yes!
Yay! We're celebrating. I've got the celebration sticks all lit up right now.
Yes.
Thank you, Safiana.
Thank you. So yes, again, if you want to connect with your soul connection coach, Claudia-Sam, you can find her wherever you found this episode. And otherwise, thank you so much for being here today, for having this conversation, and for being willing to get into the nuance and the nitty gritty of some things. So important. And as always, what an honor.
Thank you, Safiana. Thanks for listening.
That brings us to the end of this conversation today. Thanks for being brave enough to walk in the shadows with me. If you found value in this episode, please consider subscribing to Shadow Side with Safiana wherever you listen to your podcasts, and leave a review to help others find this space of transparency and expansion. You can also connect with me at safiana.com or livinglunas.com for more information. Until next time, know I'm loving you fiercely and cheering you on.